Football evolves, and no position in the past 3 decades has seen a wider change in philosophy than the running back. From being the centerpiece of an offense and oftentimes one of the highest paid players on the team, to now having a variety of roles, like for example in the passing game, they're now somehow being compensated lower than ever when compared to the rest of the positions in the NFL. You see, in 1994, running backs were the second highest paid position group in the sport in terms of annual salary. They now rank 17th out of 20. Why did this happen and who is responsible? Well, let's take a trip down memory lane to the beginning of the decline for the running back position. Meet Le'Veon Bell, a talented kid at Groveport High School in Ohio, a 3-sport athlete who began finding his way on the radar of colleges after a 1,100-yard season as a junior. Although he tasted some success as an upperclassman, most of the schools reaching out to him were non-Power 5 programs like Bowling Green, Marshall, and Eastern Michigan. Le'Veon, being a local Ohio kid, always had the dream of playing for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He gave it his best shot as a senior with over 1,300 yards and 21 touchdowns. But officially being ranked a 2-star recruit on ESPN, the only major school that came calling was the Michigan State Spartans, and with no other real option, Bell began attending MSU in 2010. And due to a few running backs for the Spartans getting themselves into trouble that offseason, Le'Veon would be given the opportunity to step onto the field as a true freshman, and making the leap from high school to the Power 5 was not too challenging for Bell, as he tallied up over 700 yards of offense and 8 touchdowns in his first season. His sophomore year, he again took a step of development, combining for over 1,200 yards of offense and 13 touchdowns, and began to generate some real hype as an NFL prospect. But what would follow in his junior season really put Bell on the map. His first 2 years at Michigan State, he wasn't the bell cow back. He often shared snaps with Edwin Baker, who was a year older than him. But after he left for the NFL draft and got selected by the San Diego Chargers in the 7th round, the load of the offense was put all on Bell's shoulders in the 2012 season. He would have 414 touches for 1,960 yards and 13 touchdowns. And the next closest rusher on the team was Larry Capper with 108 yards. And to take it a step further, the starting quarterback for MSU that year was Andrew Maxwell. He only had 2,600 yards in the entire season. So after really being a one-man wrecking crew his entire junior campaign, Le'Veon Bell was expected to be a top 70 pick in the 2013 NFL draft. And just a couple of months later, the Pittsburgh Steelers would select him with the 48th overall pick, adding him to an offense with future Hall of Fame quarterback Ben Roethlisberger and one of the best wide receivers of this generation in Antonio Brown. And what would follow would be one of the most electrifying stretches for an offense in NFL history. Bell immediately popped as a rookie, and after making his NFL debut 3 weeks into the 2013 season due to a pedalist Frank sprain, he never looked back. He had over 1,200 scrimmage yards and 8 touchdowns in 13 games, and was quickly viewed as one of the best up-and-coming running backs in the sport. And as a second-year player and the only full season Bell would play in his career, he would put together one of the best seasons for a second-year running back in NFL history, totaling 2,215 yards and 11 touchdowns, earning first-team All-Pro honors and breaking the all-purpose yards record for the Pittsburgh Steelers in a singular season. He'd helped lead the team to 11 wins and a division title, but unfortunately hyperextended his knee in Week 17 against the Cincinnati Bengals and was unable to partake in the wildcard game against the Baltimore Ravens, which the Steelers ended up losing. But the hype for Le'Veon Bell heading into 2015 was sky high, and it wasn't uncommon to see people calling him the best all-purpose running back in the NFL. But this year we got our first indication of what could be in store for Bell down the line. He would be suspended for the first 3 games due to an arrest in August 2014 on DUI and marijuana possession. He would get back on the field though in week number 4 and continue where he left off, but after a hit from Bengals linebacker Vontaze Burfict in week number 9, Bell would tear his MCL and miss the rest of the 2015 season. But the offseason drama surrounding Le'Veon would not cease to exist, as he would fail a drug test and once again be suspended for the first 3 games of the 2016 season. And he was on pace to match his ridiculous production in 2014 if he was able to play all 16 games. He averaged a career best 4.9 yards per carry and ended the season just shy of 1,900 total yards in only 12 starts, earning another Pro Bowl honor. But that 2016 season was the last year of Le'Veon Bell's rookie contract, and this ultimately was the beginning of the end of what we came to know of Le'Veon Bell. After being unable to come to a long-term contract agreement, the Steelers organization would place the franchise tag on Bell in late February, guaranteeing him $12 million for the 2017 season. And although disgruntled about not having a long-term contract, he still bought out, having statistically the second best season of his career, over 1,900 yards and 11 touchdowns, and once again earning first-team All-Pro honors. But after a heartbreaking loss in the divisional round against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Bell was ready to talk business with the organization once again. He thought after coming off of a season where he stayed out of trouble, stayed healthy, and produced at a supremely high level, he would be heavily compensated, but that didn't end up happening. Pittsburgh offered Bell just $10 million in fully guaranteed money and wanted to utilize a rolling guaranteed structure to protect the franchise due to Bell's injury history and high usage rate. And after balking at the offer, the Steelers had no choice but to once again place the franchise tag on Bell. But unlike the previous season and taking the fully guaranteed salary for 1 year, Le'Veon did something that almost no NFL player has ever had the courage to do. He refused to suit up for 1 day for the Steelers and ultimately costed himself $8.6 million in just the offseason. And I would say this gamble for Bell played out well in the short term, but not quite in the way he expected. With his absence in 2018, second-year third-round pick James Conner would get the nod at running back, and hilariously enough, he put together a Pro Bowl season with over 1,400 yards of offense and 13 touchdowns, actually surpassing Bell's career high in touchdowns in only 13 games, and that instantly got people wondering just how good Le'Veon Bell is and how much of a product of the Steelers' offensive line and playing with Big Ben and Antonio Brown had to do with his success. And as a result, the Steelers let Bell hit the open market the next offseason, and to give him a little bit of credit, he did get what he was looking for. The New York Jets came knocking and gave him a 4-year, $52.5 million contract with $35 million fully guaranteed, but this was quickly proven to be a massive mistake. Bell would only play 17 combined games for the Jets across 2 seasons. His first year in New York, he was still relatively productive, putting up 1,250 yards and 4 touchdowns, but it was clear that he was just not the same player we were used to seeing in Pittsburgh. He only averaged 3.3 yards per carry in his time in a Jets uniform, which ranked 51st out of 53 runners during this time span. And you can argue if this had to do more with Bell taking a step back as a player or the infrastructure around him with the Jets offensive line, Adam Gase as a play caller, and Sam Darnold as the quarterback behind center. But ultimately, that's all irrelevant because it became evidently clear in just this 2-year window with Bell just how replaceable, easy to find, and dependent running backs are in the modern game of football. And after practically forcing his way out of New York just 2 games into the 2020 season, the Jets released Le'Veon Bell after being unable to find a trade partner. And as they often do with troubled players, the Kansas City Chiefs' Andy Reid decided to give Bell another opportunity, and things didn't quite work out there either. He'd appear in 9 games and run for just over 250 yards, but after calling out Andy Reid in the offseason saying he'd retire first before playing for Andy Reid again, he was right back on the open market. He'd spend the 2021 season on the Baltimore Ravens practice squad and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 8 combined games, but only got 44 touches, and that was the last time we have seen Le'Veon Bell on a football field. And since then, it's been unique to say the least on Bell's post-football endeavors. For a short period of time, he became a rapper, dropped a few singles, and look at my drippers, I'm 10 again, yeah, they're not great. He also became a professional boxer and had a few bouts, one memorable one against Hall of Fame running back Adrian Peterson, and actually knocked him out, which is just hilarious to say out loud. And his most recent activity has been posting explicit social media content, I guess you would call it. He started in OF, and I suppose his $50 million in career earnings is not enough for him at this stage of his life. A few months ago, Bell said in an interview he wanted to come back to the NFL this season. I'm gonna be honest with myself. I gotta go out there and be like, I'm going to put my foot in the ground. Do I feel it? Am I hurting? Can I go out there and really play again? And bro, I'm telling you all right now, when I go out there and train in March, and if I hit April and I make this decision to come back to play in the NFL again, mark my words, I will be better than I ever was. He went on to say, and I will only come back for that one team. You all know who it is. I don't have to say no team. You all know who it is. In that same interview, he also issued his first ever apology to Steeler fans for his contract saga back in 2018. But I think it's safe to say that Bell will not be on an NFL roster in 2024, and honestly, ever again. He had one of the most unique running styles I've ever seen from a running back, with how patient he was in the backfield, and he was the epitome of a dual threat back that helped popularize that part of the position. But in the same breath, he also proved that the position is not hard to find, and the drop off between some of the elite backs in the league and average backs is not that steep given a formidable offensive structure, which Bell was given his entire career in Pittsburgh. So when you ever wonder why the running back position is rapidly declining in value, just remember that the Le'Veon Bell situation is one of the prime examples on just how fast things can change.